Good morning, this is Jeff with Walk and Talk with Jeff. It is a hot one again today. It's already 87 degrees out here with a heat index of 95, and it's going to get much worse as the day goes on. So I want to get into a quick story. It was about when I was a lieutenant working at a high-medium facility. We had periodic shakedowns on the weekends with inmate visitors that came into the prison to visit. And we had dogs, drug-sniffing dogs. It was usually furnished by the state police, or we had our own department dogs. They were also very good. Well, one day we was out there doing our normal searches on a Saturday morning, and this car pulls in, two ladies and a young child in the back seat. I always spoke to all of them that came in, talked to them for a minute, and they said, hey, we're conducting searches. Everybody has to be searched today. I need permission to search your vehicle, which I really didn't at the time. With the state police there, they had the opportunity to search the vehicle anyway, but they said for legal purposes, we should always ask. So I did. They said, why do you want to search my vehicle for? I said, well, ma'am, we're searching all the vehicles. It's, we're not picking anyone out in particular. And she said, well, I don't know about all that. I don't think you need to be going through all my stuff. I said, well, ma'am, if you don't to do the search, you will not be allowed to visit. And when I said that, the little boy in the back seat, he said, oh, mama, he said, we got to do it. We got to see dad. And she just was looking at him, and she told him shut up. He said, and he started crying. He said, no, I want to see dad. I want to see dad. So she reluctantly, she said, yeah, all right. Yeah, you can search the vehicle. You're going to do it anyway. I said, well, ma'am, I appreciate it. I said, just please step out of the vehicle. Well, the dogs started to search their vehicle, and when they did, immediately hit on a huge bag of marijuana. Today marijuana is not that big of a deal, but back then it was huge, especially bringing it on facility grounds. Had little baggies, a little scale, found 2 or 3 bags of pills, and a whole bunch of little bags of white powder, which later turned out to be cocaine. This whole car that she was in was a moving drug wagon. So in the back seat, the little boy, who had already stepped out and sitting on the curb, I walked over. I said, this is not going to be good, because this little fella here, what are we going to do with him? Because both these ladies are going to go to the county jail because they both had drugs on them. The one lady, the passenger lady, she had a whole bunch in her pockets of little baggies of what later tested to be cocaine. So I walked over there, and the little guy was sitting on the curb. I said, what's your name, buddy? He said, Jamaal. I said, man, it's kind of a bad day, huh? Yeah. He said, I was going to get to see my dad for the first time. I just turned 6 years old. He missed my birthday. He said, so I was going to get to talk to him today, and he was going to wish me happy birthday, and I was going to get to hug him for the first time. Man, I got to tell you, that broke my heart. He had big old crocodile tears running down his face. He wore a little white shirt, a little black necktie, and black pants with shiny black shoes. He looked sharp as a tack. And I told him that. I said, you look so good today, buddy. I said, you dress. He said, I said, you dress like this all the time? He said, no. And I said, you just dress like that to see your dad today? He said, yeah, I did. I said, well, I don't want to be the guy of bad news. I said, but you won't get to see him today. But I said, you will get to see him. I said, there's no rule that says you cannot come and see your dad. Well, I knew that by both those going to jail, and the ladies weren't talking. They weren't telling who the next of kin was. They clammed up. And I'm not talking no more till I talk to my attorney. Well, that's fine, but what are we going to do with Jamaal, right? So we finally got out of there, got them, the police officers pulled in. They handcuffed both of them, put them in the back seat of the car, and Jamaal lost it. He just busted out crying. Now his mom's gone, his dad's in prison, and where's Jamaal going to go? We had to call Child and Family Services to come and get him. It took about an hour for them to finally round somebody up to come get him on a Saturday. Well, in the meantime, I took him inside. It was really hot outside. I took him inside, And we sat in some chairs in the entryway, and I talked to him about everything. I talked to him about baseball. I talked to him about basketball. I talked to him about anything that I could possibly talk to him. I spent, like I said, an hour talking to the little fella. You know, I don't know if I made his day any better or not, but at least it kind of got his mind off of things for a little bit. So anyway, when they came, and I would have loved, and I know people always say, why didn't you let the little guy go see his dad? Well, that was completely against the rules and completely against the law. You can't let a 6-year-old visit on his own. He has to have a consenting adult with him, especially to visit a felon. So our hands were tied, and I felt so sorry for the little guy. And when Child and Family Services came in, I introduced her to the little fella. I said, this is Jamaal. And she said, hi, my name is, I don't remember what it was. And he shook his hand, and she was really, really good with him. And she was very nice. Well, she said, you gonna come with me, Jamaal? He said, we're gonna go and we're gonna get us something to eat first. And then we're gonna go, and me and you's gonna do some paperwork together. He said, paperwork? She said, oh yeah. She said, I just gotta ask some questions about you. You know, what's your birthday? He said, you know all that, right? He said, oh yeah, I know all that. So she hit it off with him really good at the very beginning. So, but it was heartbreaking to watch little Jamaal get his heart broke. And as the shift went on, I couldn't get my mind off of it, man. I could not stop thinking of Jamaal. So I got off that day at 3 o'clock. About 2:30, I decided to go in my office and give Child and Family Services a call, find out about Jamaal, see what was going on with him, because I mean, I was just that concerned. And I talked to the lady actually who came and picked him up. And he said, oh, yes, sir. Says he is doing great. He's doing fine. Said we're sitting here right now. Said we're coloring a giraffe, and we've had us a big burger from McDonald's, and you know, just talking like that. I knew he was in good hands. He was doing well. And she said, best news is, said his aunt is coming to get him. Should be here in about an hour or so. Well, that right there was immediate relief for me. I was so glad that he was finally going to get back with his family, and you know, go back to where they lived, and hopefully get that all ironed out with whatever was going on with mom and her friend and all the drugs, and gosh, I don't even know whatever happened to the whole deal. So the bad part of it was I had to also go into the cell houses and find the guy that Jamaal was going to visit, which was Jamaal's dad. Had to tell him that the visit wasn't happening. I had to tell him why. He was so mad. He was screaming and hollering and cussing. You know, I let him go for a while, because you know what? I'd have been mad too. So he kind of had his little fit and everything. And I told him, I said, man, I said, I'll tell you this. I said, you got a little son. I said, that is awesome. I said, when you finally do get to meet him, I said, you're gonna love it, because he is a 100% good guy. I said, you're gonna be happy with him. He said, so you met him and I ain't, right? I said, well, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it the way that you're gonna meet him for the first time one day. So let's just do that. So later on, that inmate, a couple days later, he saw me in the chow hall. He come back and apologized to me the way he acted, and told me that his wife, who was Jamaal's mom, was still in jail. The friend was still in jail, and they were looking at doing like 6 to 10 years or something like that was going to be about the minimum they were going to be able, or going to get out of the sentence. And I said, well, what's going to happen with Jamaal? I said, what's going on? He said, I got a real good aunt. He said, and she is 100% Christian. She's a good lady. She'll take good care of him. Better care, he said, better care than me and my soon-to-be ex-wife is takes care of him. So anyway, that's my story today. Jamaal's little heart was broke. I never did find out anything else past that. What happened to Jamaal? I think the inmate was transferred to a lesser security prison a little later on, and Jamaal never really got a chance to come to that prison to see him. But I'm sure they got to meet up, and when they did, I'm sure he was proud of little Jamaal. But anyway, that's my story today. It's just kind of heartbreaking that parents can do that to a young child. But you know what? Those people are out there, trust me. So anyway, I hope you have a fantastic day. please like, subscribe, please subscribe, and comment on my page. I'm out.